All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into the world of Grubhub. We're going to figure out how to make that Grubhub hustle work for you.
And I got to say, going through all this research,
Yeah.
uh, I was really surprised by just how much there is to uncover with this.
Yeah, Grubhub seems pretty straightforward on the surface, right? Order food, deliver food, get paid. But like you're saying, I'm sensing there's a lot more to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are definitely some hidden depths, some strategies that you won't find in those basic newbie tutorials. We're going to get into all that.
All right, so before we really get into it,
Yeah.
let's just do a super quick overview for anyone who might not be totally familiar with Grubhub. What is it?
Okay, so basically it's this platform that connects, well, hungry people with restaurants. They've got tons of partners, local places, big chains, all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People order through the app or the website, and then their super secret algorithm figures out which driver to send.
Oh, right, the algorithm. Everyone's always talking about that.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like considers who's closest, who's available, who has good ratings, all that jazz. And then, bam, the order goes out.
So from there, it's just getting that food to the customer ASAP.
Pretty much. Well, it's still hot and yummy, of course.
Okay, so that all makes sense, but like you said earlier, there's more to it than just that.
Right. So one thing people often miss is that Grubhub drivers, they're independent contractors. They're not employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's huge, right?
Yeah, that does change things a bit.
Big time.
Yeah.
You get flexibility, but it also means you handle your own taxes, no benefits. You're basically your own boss.
Whoa, so it's like a mini business almost.
Exactly. And that's something a lot of people don't realize going in. You got to think like an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So even before you turn on the app, you need to have that mindset?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's about more than just driving. It's managing time, expenses, really understanding how to maximize each order,
Yeah.
which is what we're all about here.
Yeah, right. So let's say someone's listening and thinking, okay, I want to do this Grubhub thing. What's the first step?
Well, first you got to get through that application process. It might seem pretty standard, age, license, car info.
Sure, the usual stuff.
But there's this one part that can be a real roadblock for some people. A background check.
Oh, right. Yeah. I guess I got to make sure you're a safe driver.
More than that, actually. They do check your driving record, obviously, but also criminal history. Some convictions, even certain driving violations, can disqualify you right away.
So they're not messing around.
Nope. They want responsible drivers, people they can trust. And it's not about being perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, but just be upfront about your past.
So have all your ducks in a row before you even apply.
Exactly. Get your documents organized, double check everything, and just be prepared. The process can take some time, so the better prepared you are up front, the smoother it'll be.
Okay, so you've got your application sorted, you're ready to roll, but the big question is, how do you actually make money with Grubhub?
Okay, so the bread and butter is going to be the per order pay. Grubhub calculates this based on distance, time, and sometimes how big the order is.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where things get kind of mysterious.
Oh,
They use this algorithm, right? And what drivers actually experience out there, it doesn't always line up with what Grubhub says.
That's interesting. So you can't just rely on those upfront payout numbers.
Exactly. You got to be smarter than the algorithm.
All right, so if it's not just about chasing those high numbers, what should drivers be focusing on?
2 words. Dollars per mile.
Okay, dollars per mile. So how much you're actually making for the distance you drive.
Yes. And the other one is dollars per hour.
Oh, okay. So factoring in the time you spend waiting at restaurants and stuff.
Exactly. That unpaid time can really eat into your earnings. You got to make sure you're making the most of your time out there.
This is making a lot of sense. It's not just taking any order that comes your way. It's about choosing the ones that are worth your time and effort.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most important skills any Grubhub driver needs to master.
What's that?
The art of saying no.
Wait, saying no. I thought more orders meant more money.
Not always. Remember those metrics we talked about? Well, sometimes those long-distance deliveries, even if they have a high payout, aren't worth it in the end. Think about the unpaid miles you have to drive back.
Oh, right. Like driving back to a busy area after you drop off the order.
Yeah, those are called deadhead miles, and they can kill your dollars per mile. And don't even get me started on restaurants with long wait times. You're just sitting there, losing money.
So it's better to be picky, even if it means turning down some orders.
Absolutely. Prioritize quality over quantity. A good order is about more than just that initial offer. It's about making sure it makes sense for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. But doesn't Grubhub track your acceptance rate or something?
They do, but honestly, it's not as big a deal as some people think. A lower acceptance rate might not hurt you that much, especially if you have a high completion rate, actually finishing the orders you do accept.
So it's about being strategic, not just taking anything that comes your way.
You got it. Now, let's talk about those hot spots they show you in the app. You know those areas they highlight that supposedly have lots of orders?
Yeah. Are those actually reliable, or are they just hype?
They can be helpful, but I always tell drivers to think of them as more of an indication than a guarantee. They might point you in the right direction, but blindly relying on them can backfire. Your own experience in tracking locations in your market will be far more valuable.
So it's like becoming a data detective in your city. You got to find those patterns yourself.
Exactly. Don't blindly follow the app. Use it as a starting point, then get to know your area. Figure out the peak times. Identify those zones where you consistently get good orders.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, before we move on to any super secret advanced strategies,
Oh, yeah, we got some good ones coming up.
we got to talk about something that's probably on a lot of people's minds. Grubhub's driver level system. Partner, Pro, Premier. Are those levels something that drivers should actually be striving for?
That's a great question. And honestly, the benefits of these driver levels are a bit of a hot topic of debate among drivers.
Oh, really? So, some people love it, some people hate it.
Pretty much. Grubhub claims that, reaching higher levels like Pro or Premier will give you earlier access to scheduling blocks, potentially better order offers.
But on scheduling blocks.
Oh, right. So in some markets, Grubhub requires drivers to schedule specific blocks of time they'll be available. They say this gives you priority for orders during those times. But in reality, it's not always as smooth as they make it sound.
I see. So what's the catch with these driver levels then?
The big thing is, to maintain those higher levels, you need to keep a crazy high acceptance rate.
Yeah.
We're talking like above 90, even 95%.
Wow, that's high.
Right. So you basically end up taking a lot of low-paying orders just to keep your status. And remember those metrics we talked about. That can really hurt your earnings per hour.
So it's a trade-off, huh?
Exactly. It really depends on your market and what works for you. Don't chase a higher level if it means sacrificing your income. Focus on those key metrics. Let the data guide your decisions.
Okay, so much good stuff already. We've covered, decoding the algorithm, mastering order selection. But for those who are ready to level up their Grubhub hustle even further,
Oh yeah, we're just getting started.
we've got even more coming up. Okay, so let's unlock those advanced tactics you mentioned.
All right, but before we get into the really hardcore stuff, I got to say, these strategies, they require like a bit more experience. You really got to understand how Grubhub works, inside and out.
So not for beginners.
Definitely not for newbies. Get the basics down first, get comfortable with your earnings. Then, if you're feeling ambitious, you can start experimenting with this stuff.
Got it. So first up on the advanced tactics list, what do we have?
All right, so one that you'll hear a lot of seasoned drivers talking about is multi-apping.
Multi-apping, huh? What is that exactly?
So it's basically using multiple delivery apps at the same time.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
like Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats all at once.
Yep. The idea is to maximize your earning potential by juggling orders from different platforms.
Yeah.
Increase your chances of getting a good order.
I can see the appeal, but that sounds kind of like chaotic. What are some of the challenges there?
Oh, it can definitely be overwhelming, especially if you're not super organized. You got to be efficient with your time, familiar with each app, their quirks. It's a high wire act for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. What happens if you mess up?
Oh, you risk getting deactivated from all the platforms,
Uh-huh.
and then you're in trouble. It's not about greedily accepting everything that pops up. It's about being strategic, choosing the best orders across multiple apps, and that takes practice.
Okay, so multi-apping is not for the faint of heart. Any tips for those brave souls who want to give it a try?
First and foremost, make sure you're comfortable with each app individually before even thinking about combining them. Get a feel for their algorithms, pay structures, support. Then start slow. Maybe try 2 apps at once during a less busy time and see how you manage.
So like dipping your toes in the water.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment, but always prioritize quality over quantity. It's better to complete a few high-paying orders successfully than to try to juggle too many and make mistakes.
Great advice. Okay, what about building relationships with restaurant staff? I've heard some drivers say that can help you get better service.
Okay, here's the truth about restaurant relationships. It's more about being a decent human being than trying to game the system.
Oh, okay.
Like, be polite to the staff, learn their names, be patient, especially during rush hour. Just be a good person.
Makes sense. So it's not about expecting special treatment, it's just about building that rapport.
Exactly. This might get you your order out a minute or two faster, which can make a difference. But don't expect to jump the line just because you're buddies with the cashier.
It's all about working smarter, not harder, right? Not about cutting corners or anything, just about maximizing your efficiency.
You got it.
All right, I think it's time for a reality check. We've talked about the positive stuff, but what are some things drivers should absolutely avoid? What are those anti-hustle moves that can really mess things up?
Okay, yeah, let's talk about some common pitfalls.
Yo!
Some of this might seem obvious, but the consequences can be pretty serious. Speeding, driving recklessly, being rude to customers, those are absolute no-nos.
Yeah, those are the basics.
Right. Can lead to bad ratings, deactivation. Plus, it's just dangerous. You got to prioritize safety, both yours and others.
Absolutely. But are there any, less obvious things drivers might not be aware of?
One thing that people often forget is properly protecting the food during transport.
Oh, right.
Make sure you're using insulated bags, handling the food carefully, keeping hot food hot, cold food cold. Might seem like a small thing, but it can make a huge difference for customer satisfaction and your ratings.
Makes sense. You're representing the restaurant. You want that food to arrive in perfect condition.
Exactly. Another one is being aware of your surroundings. At pickup, at drop-off. If something feels off, unsafe, don't hesitate to contact Grubhub support.
So, trusting your gut instinct.
Yes. They might tell you to cancel the order, which might ding your completion rate, but safety is paramount. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Right. Don't put yourself in a risky situation just to complete an order.
Exactly. And finally, this should go without saying, but never, ever provide inaccurate information to Grubhub, whether it's during the application or while you're doing deliveries. Honesty is key.
So don't lie, don't cheat the system.
Yep. If you get caught, it could mean deactivation. And nobody wants that.
Okay, this has been so informative. We've gone from decoding the algorithm and choosing the right orders to some more advanced stuff like multi-apping and staying safe. It's really clear that being a successful Grubhub driver is more than just, driving.
Press.
All right, before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah, it's really eye-opening how much strategy goes into making this work.
It is. It's like I said, you're in the driver's seat, literally. Grubhub gives you the tools, but you decide how to use them.
That's a great way to put it. So, any last nuggets of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with? Something to really get them thinking.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about data, right? Dollars per mile, per hour, tracking earnings. But data is only useful if you actually use it. So my challenge to you is don't just collect that data, analyze it. Experiment. See what works best in your area.
I love that. Become a Grubhub scientist.
Exactly. You're constantly testing, tweaking, finding ways to maximize those earnings. Maybe you'll discover some secret pattern, something even we haven't thought of.
And then you'll be the expert on our show.
Hey, you never know.
That's right. Always looking for new insights. So get out there, hustle smart, and let us know what you find. Until next time, happy delivering.